e-racing spring series. Today we come to you from Goodwood with the GR3s, for which we are using for tuning, and we will run through the grid first. We actually ran 2 lobbies for this, so I will do the second lobby fairly soon, but this is lobby 1. So we have got Richie on pole with his Mercedes AMG, Dan second with the Renault RS01, Matt on third with the Audi R8, Pickles fourth with the Porsche, Michael fifth with an Audi R8, Mike sixth with an Audi R8, and Says seventh with his Lamborghini Huracan. So that's all we have in this lobby. As I say, we've got some other guys racing simultaneously in a second lobby. So let's get this race underway and see how things pan out. So you can see we've got Richie just leading. As you see, we've got a rolling start here because it's Goodwood and a very tight, tricky first corner. So off we go. Richie leading the way in the Mercedes. Traditional Union Jack start for this race. So Richie's off first, followed by Dan, Matt, Pickles, Michael, Mike, and Says. So we can see their top 3 slightly breaking away. Matt having a look down the inside, quick look down the inside of Dan there. So Matt looks quite eager in the background here to get past Dan. So Dan is on the medium side. So Goodwood is one of these tracks where it cannot rain at, so we have to use all 3 compounds of slick tyre. So we've got Richie on medium, Dan on medium, Matt's on soft, so should be the quicker of those 3. Pickles on medium, Michael on softs, Mike on hards, and Says on hards as well. So we'll go back to the top and watch this brief 3-way battle. So we've got Richie, Dan, Matt, bit of a gap. Michael's now got his way up into 4th. Pickles down to 5th. Mike running 6th, but Mike is on the hard tyres. And Says in 7th. There we are in his Lamborghini. So Matt and Dan are alongside each other here for 2nd place. Oh, Dan's just run a little bit wide. Matt's cut the corner. Matt's off. Let's have a look, see what's happening with Matt. Oh, he's made a mistake and he's got stuck in all the bollards. So he's trying to find his way out. There he is, back on the track, but he's dropped all the way down to 6th place. So we'll see what Matt can do from there. Still got Says running in 7th. So Richie leading the way, set the fastest lap thus far of 107.3. So Richie here coming up to complete another lap. So set another fastest lap on another 107.6. Dan running in second with the Renault RS01. Michael third. Pickles 4. Mike 5, but Mike is on the hard tyre, so he's doing really well to stay this close. Matt there in 6 with the Audi, trying to make up time after that mistake. And you see a 1:23 lap there for Matt. So that's what, 16 seconds lost, roughly. So we'll keep an eye on Matt's progress, and says they're in 7th. So let's go back to the front. So the top 3 fairly evenly spaced there, with Richie leading it. So let's jump on board with Richie and go for a lap of this Goodwood circuit. So we go around turn 1, which is Madwick's. It's a double apex corner with a dip in the middle, so really tricky. We now go through Ford Water, which is the fast right-hander, which we're going through now. Then we go through St Mary's, the left-hander, and then up to Lavant. So Lavant's basically made up of 2 right-handers. So we've got this first part, which is tight, and then it opens up for this second part, which is flat out, onto the Lavant straight, which is got this couple of little kinks in the middle of it, and then we come up to Woodcote. So again, double apex right-hander, and then up to the chicane and the start finish straight. So she over the line. So we have a 1:08.543 from Richie on that lap, and back through Madwicks again. So you can see it's a very short lap here. So in a 60-minute race, I would guess we're definitely looking at 50 plus laps, probably 53 to 54 laps, I'd imagine. So that will be interesting to see how it all pans out after that. The outright lap record around the Goodwood circuit is by a guy called Nick Padmore, who is a historic racer in an old Arrows Formula 1 car, and he done that in a 1:09.914. So we can see with these GT3 cars that we're using, we run into our own Goodwood E-Racing Series spec, which is a maximum of 600 horsepower, a maximum PP, which is performance points, of 760, and a minimum weight of 1,300 kilos. So these cars are fairly quick and fairly lively round here. So you can see Dan there in Richie's rear view mirror. So we're already on to lap 7 after 7.5 minutes. So there we are, there's Dan's view of Richie. Dan just looks quite content, sat there in behind Richie. So the Renault RS01 is a car that we don't see particularly often being used in GT3 or GR3 races. Don't know why. It's not a bad car. It's not quite at the level of Mercedes or an Audi, but somewhere like Goodwood, that's got lots of fast, sweepy corners and straights, is pretty good. And as you can see, it's one big advantage for the RS01. But there's actually a couple, is the fact that it's actually a purpose-built race car, unlike the other GR3 cars that have been adapted basically from high performance road cars. The Renault RS01 was designed as an out and out GR3 car. It was actually made for a one make series which Renault Sport ran a few years ago, and then somebody came up with the idea of adapting it from the one make series to this GT3 spec, which is what we've now got. In actual fact, the GT3 version of it is actually slower than the one make race series spec. The other problem they had with the RS01 was that it actually has got a carbon fibre chassis on it, which at the time wasn't allowed in GT3 racing until McLaren came along with their MP4 or their MP12, I think it was, which also had a carbon chassis and a carbon tub on it, and then they allowed carbon for chassis into GT3 racing. So that's why we've now got the RS01 in here, and yeah, it's not a bad car. And Dan's obviously doing a pretty decent job, being just about a second or so behind Richie, just looking really comfortable. So we drop back to Pickles, who's now jumped back ahead of Michael, and he's running third. See, a little way behind. So this is in a Porsche 911. So through the chicane and onto start finish. So Dan and Richie are lapping in 107s. Pickles here 1088. So about half a second to a second off of what Richie and Dan are doing. So Pickles heading down Lavant Straight. If you look at the schematic in the top right hand corner there, the red triangle is Pickles, and you can see that Richie and Dan are just going through the chicane now to go onto the start and finish straight. So Pickles is a little way off of them. There we got Matt's worked his way back up to fourth now with the Audi, but he's on the soft tyres, so he'll be the first of those. In fact, here he comes into the pits now, so he'll drop there. Looks like Michael's already been in, he's out on a set of mediums now. So 1087, so very slightly quicker than Pickles there. So Matt's just coming out now on a set of mediums as well. There we go. He's worked his way back up to fifth, effectively. So through St Mary's, a couple of wheels on the grass there, through Lavant 1 and through Lavant 2, and out onto the Lavant Straight and heading towards Woodcote. We've got Mike there in the Audi. He's now out on a set of soft tyres, so he's got rid of those hards, so the race will come back towards Michael. Or Mike, and we've still got Cez there running in 7th. So we've now got Matt with the fastest lap of the race on a 107.3. We've now got Dan in the lead, so he's jumped past Richie somewhere around that last lap. So these two are kind of out on their own now, and they're having their own private race. Pickles there, comfortably running in third in his Porsche. It's very reminiscent of I seem to remember there was a blue coral Porsche 911 GT1 a few years ago that took part in the British GT Championship, and the livery here that Pickles is running on his Porsche looks very reminiscent of that blue coral Porsche. So very smart, nice livery there, Pickles. We've got Matt running in fourth, just coming through St Mary. Oh no, that's Michael. Sorry, running in fourth, just coming up towards 11. And there's Matt there in fifth. So Matt is probably the slightly quicker of the two drivers, so he'll probably be closing down. Oh, no, maybe not. Spoke too soon. Cursed the commentator. So yeah, Matt's just recovering from a spin that's dropped him behind. Mike as well, dropped him back to 6. So not a great race for Matt here. So you can see from looking at the split time there, he's lost 14 seconds. So there'll be muck and rubbish all over the tyres, so that will have to come off. So we'll see how much time he's lost. Yeah, it's 15.2 seconds he's lost on that lap compared to his fastest lap of the race. So bit of a disastrous race for Matt. So it says running in 7th. So Richie's coming into the pit. So Richie is the first of the leaders to come into the pits. He has 1 litre of fuel left in the tank. Let's see how much Dan's got. Nearly a quarter of a tank. So Dan is well up on fuel. Dan can go quite a lot further than Richie on a tank of fuel. So if he can keep that up, that may well save him a stop. How far into the race are we? So target's got to be, for these 60-minute races, there's got to be 20 minutes if you want to try and do it on 2 stops. But ideally a bit more than that, because you've got to use all 3. You've got to use all 3 compounds of tyre. So the soft tyre obviously is the fastest tyre, but it won't last as long. Medium obviously sits in the middle of the 3 types of tyre there. So it's obviously in turn it's quicker than the hard tyres, not as quick as the soft, but will last longer than the soft. And then obviously you've got the hard tyre, which will last longer, but is not going to be anywhere near as quick as the soft or the medium. So ideally you're probably trying to look to get maybe 20 to 25 minutes out of the medium tyre. Likewise with the hard, but then you've then got the fuel to factor in. But can you do 20 to 25 minutes on tank of fuel? It looks like Dan's going to be able to manage to get pretty close to those kinds of numbers. And then obviously with the soft tyre, you'll wear the soft tyre out way before the tank of fuel's finished. So you need to get the vast majority of the race done on medium and hard tyres, and just leave a little bit probably towards the end for soft. Either that, or you've got the option obviously of making a 3rd pit stop. In fact, Dan's fuel warning light has just come on, you can see. Certainly going to have enough left in there to do at least another lap. You see Dan's just gone across the start line, and Richie's just heading down the Lavin straight towards Woodcote. He's switched on to the hard tyres now, so we can see there at that split time Richie was just over a second off of his fastest. So through the chicane, and then once as he crossed the line in, So he's 1.4 seconds off of his fastest lap, and that will purely be down to switching from the medium to the hard tyre. So we'll see what Dan can do. Dan is still out there on the medium. So Richie's lap there was a 109.1, and Dan's was a 108.2. So Dan's pulled 0.9 of a second, so almost a complete second on Richie on that lap. So the race is very much between these two. It'll be to see who really. There we go. Dan's into the pit, so we'll see what Dan does with tyres and fuel. Mike's in the pits as well. He's stopped on the soft tyres. And I think he's out on another set of softs. We'll see what Dan does. So the race for overall first and second is between Dan and Richie. So there we go. Dan's gone out on another set of mediums. So this is interesting now. We've got Dan leading, full tank of fuel, another set of mediums. So Dan is going to make 3 stops at least. Richie there in second. We know he's on the hard tyre. So we've got different strategies going on here between Dan and Richie. I would expect to see Dan steadily pull away, so maybe what Dan's looking to do is so he's done 20 minutes on there, so another set of soft or mediums will get him to theoretically about 40 minutes. So he could do 20 minutes on medium, 20 minutes on medium, 10 on hard and 10 on soft potentially is what Dan could well be looking at. Richie's obviously used the 2 types of tyre now, so I'm guessing Richie will try and go as far as he can on this set of hards. The Mercedes is obviously not as good on the fuel as the Renault. So there we go, Richie's crossed the line again, a little bit quicker than previous, but still 1.1 seconds off of his personal best fastest lap. So those two are out front. So there we got Pickles in third. So Matt's managed to get himself back to fourth. See some damage on the front of that Audi where he had that spin down at the beginning of the 11th straight. We'll have a quick look. Let's just jump on board. Then we can see there Matt from Pickles just round wide, kicks up a little bit of dust. Matt looks like he's dropped back a little bit off the back of Pickles here. So it says he's now in the pits running in 5th. Probably got back to 7th, I would think. 108.6 from Pickles, and a 108.1 from Matt. So Matt's taken half a second out of Pickles there. This gap's coming steadily down. Drop back to Mike, running it in 5th in the Audi. Richie's into the pits now on his hard tyres, so a short-ish stint from Richie. So I suspect Richie will probably go on to the mediums, saving the soft for the end of the race. So Richie's going to do it on 3 stops as well. So still comes out in 2nd place ahead of battle for 3rd between Pickles and Matt. So Richie there in his Lewis Hamilton inspired Mercedes AMG. And then obviously Pickles in his blue coral Porsche. And Matt there racing in his slightly changed livery this week. Still got the stripes down the side of his car, his fluorescent stripes. Mike there running in 5th, having a steady race. And then Michael in 6th. He's lost a bit of ground. He was running up at third at one point, so Michael's just lost a little bit of ground. And then says there in 7th, not having his usual cracking race. So back to the front there, we've got Dan just crossed the line, 108.1. Let's see what Richie can do. So he's done his out lap. So Dan was a 108.1. So Richie's coming through Woodcut now, up towards the chicane. Through the chicane. Let's see what lap time he does. So he's back onto the mediums. So he's taken 2/10 out of Dan. But we know that the Mercedes isn't as good on fuel as the RS1. So at the next couple of stops, Richie's going to have to take more fuel on. So he needs to be running a little bit quicker than Dan to try and make up that deficit of fuel. So you see Richie there on course for potentially fastest lap of the race. Matt's now got himself ahead of Pickles and back up to 3rd. But Matt's got his fuel light on, so he's going to have to be coming pit bound, probably this lap or the next one, where Pickles has still got half a tank left. We've got Mike running in 5th with half a tank. Oh, quick speed there for Michael. Someone's nearby. I think that Seth's just gone past him. So Michael recovering on his way. Dan's still leading in the RS01. So Dan has just stepped up the pace on the last couple of laps. He's done a 107.5 and a 107.6. So what's Richie done? A 108.1 and a 107.6. So Dan is still steadily pulling away from Richie, which is what Richie doesn't need at this stage. Richie needs to try and be closing down on Dan if he wants to retake the lead. So I think Dan is now starting to work himself into a really good, strong position here, certainly with strategy and with lap times. There we go. Dan's crossed the line now. What's he done there? Excuse me, another 107.9. So Dan, let's see what Richie does. Richie's coming up to Woodcote. Richie's done 2 stops already. Dan's just done the 1. So Richie through the chicane now. Let's see what lap time he does. A 107.8. So a 1/10 of a second quicker than Dan. Dan's still got half a tank of fuel left, so he's going to get to this 40-minute mark, which is really good. So he's got that. So he'll probably go, I would guess, onto the hard tyre. And Richie's got just over half a tank of fuel left. So this Mercedes compared to the Renault is quite a thirsty car. Richie through the chicane and onto the start finish straight. He's coming up to put a lap on somebody by the looks of things. I'm guessing that will be Michael running there in 7th. So what we will do is, because we are running the 2 lobbies side by side, we'll take the results of lobby 1 and of lobby 2 and we will then join them together. So it's, yes, you are racing, but you're also after the fastest total race time you can possibly do. So we'll see what Dan and Richie, Pickles and the others will do in this race. So let's say that Dan does, for argument's sake, 60 laps in 60 minutes, but the winner of lobby 2 does 60 laps but takes them a little bit longer to do it. So let's say that Dan does the 60 laps in 60 minutes and 2 seconds, and the winner of lobby 2 does 60 laps in 60 minutes and 10 seconds. Then Dan will win the overall once the 2 lobbies have been joined together. So we'll have to see what these guys do. So it could be that even though Michael is now a lap down on Dan and Richie, his pace could be good enough still to beat some of the guys that are going to be racing in lobby 2. So we'll add all the times together and then we'll work out who's the overall winner, overall second, overall third, overall fourth, etc., all the way down to potentially 32nd place. I know we've got 7 racing in this lobby, so the maximum you can have is 16. So we will then sort the results out and add them together. So it's kind of it's a bit like a 60-minute qualifying race, if that makes sense, where it's about the highest amount of laps that you can do in an hour in the fastest time that you can possibly do it. So even though you're not physically on track with the guys in the other lobby, you are trying to race them and just get your fastest time for the 60 minutes in, and as many laps as you can do in that 60 minutes. So we will see how all that works out, but I would suspect that what we're probably going to be looking at is the overall winner of this round from the Goodwood E-Race Series will come from this lobby, and is likely to be the winner of this race. So this is the faster of the two, in theory is the faster of the two lobbies, with the quicker guys in here. So we will see how that works out. So anyway, back to this particular race. So we've got Richie here going still in second, 0.3 of a second away from his personal fastest lap of the race. Coming up towards the chicane again to complete yet another lap. So this will be completing lap 13 going on to 31. So we're 35 minutes in. So we are going to be looking at probably 53 to 54 laps. Pickles is now in the pitch from third place. So he was involved in battle with Matt. So away he goes, and he's out on the hard tyres. Matt's just come into the pits as well on the hard tyres, so Matt's going to get rid of those. So we'll see how far Pickles will run on those. So Dan is just coming up to that. So Dan, so this is amazing pace from Dan and consistency. So Pickles there is running in third, and just running behind him is Dan, who's running in first. So okay, I know Pickles has just made another pit stop, but Dan is about to lap the third place runner in this race, which is quite amazing. I don't think we've seen this level of performance or this advantage of performance from anybody before. So Dan will be picking up a slipstream there from Pickles down the Lavant Straight into Woodcote. Is Dan potentially going to pit this lap or not? Doesn't look like it. So let's see how much fuel Dan's got. So Dan's probably got another couple of 3 laps left of fuel in there. Dan's trying to find his way past Pickles, and Pickles isn't letting him pass. So these two are having a bit of a ding-dong. Pickles really should... he's got the blue flag, so he really should be moving aside and letting Dan go as the leader of the race, even though it's only because of the way the pit stops have worked out. So Dan's finally got past him. So hopefully that didn't cost Dan too much time. There's only Dan and Richie now currently on the lead lap. So looking at that, Dan's fuel lights on, so he's going to be into the pits on the next lap. So again, he's managed to get the best part of 20 minutes out of a tank of fuel, which is pretty impressive. Dan heading off into the pits, probably to switch on to the hard tyres, I guess. Oh, he's managed to pick himself up a 3-second penalty. It's probably for pit entrance, probably crossing the line before cutting the line, coming into the pits. So this may change it. So Dan there is leading. Let's see where Richie is. So Dan has still got a decent chunk of a lead. I think Richie's made 3 pit stops now, hasn't he? So Dan has got a pit stop in hand over Richie. So Dan is out on the soft tyres, so he's going to see how far he can get these soft tyres to go, and then he'll finish off the race on the hard tyres. So Dan's just served his penalty now, so we'll see how many laps that Dan can get out of these tyres. So he's also not taken a full tank of fuel. So Dan's done 2 stints on medium. He's now out on soft, so he's still got to use the hard tyres. So Dan's going to have to pit once more. Richie's going to have to pit as well, because we've got 20 minutes left. Richie's got 2/3 of a tank of fuel left. He's not going to get to the end with what he's got. So a slight mistake from Richie coming out of the chicane there as Let's says passed. So Richie running there second, so I don't think Richie's done his soft tyre stint yet. So Richie's going to have to make another stop. So different strategy there from Dan and Richie. Pickles there running in 3rd. Matt in 4th. Michael in 5th. And we've got Says in 6th. Dan's now taken the fastest lap at the race of 1:06.947. And then Michael in 7th. So Dan's just gone through Lavant and out onto the Lavant straight, whilst Richie is coming through Fordwater. So a decent lead going on for Dan. So we see Zez there just in the background, just running wide. Pickles is third. Matt in fourth. Yellow flags here, someone's gone off. And someone else has just gone off with Matt again. And the game's reset. Matt. So he's lost a load of time there. It's Pickles. Mike running in fifth. So Dan is lapped everybody up to fourth. Mike back up into sixth and says to seventh. And it looks like, there we go, it says he's into the pits. Dan leading out onto the Lavant Straight, heading towards Woodcote. He's on the soft tyres. Say Dan's now got the fastest lap of the race at 106.9. Richie is just coming through the second part of Lavant Corner now, whilst Dan goes over the start and finish line. Pickles just coming through St Mary's. So Richie's got a decent lead over Pickles as well. Matt running in fourth with Mike just behind him. So we've got the two Audis running pretty close together. So we've got Matt on the mediums. Matt's just made another mistake. Let's let Mike pass. And Richie to put a lap on Matt as well now. Michael there running in sixth. And says in seventh. So really it's all now about what's going to happen with these last stops with Dan. Dan's going to be switching on to the hard tyre and Richie onto the soft. But Dan's got Richie's just coming across the line now and Dan is going through St Mary's. So Dan's got a good half lap lead over Richie. Says has just managed to take the fastest lap of the race now. So it's a 106.9, but it's a 9.912 instead of a 0.947. So just a fraction quicker than Dan's managed. So Richie there running in a comfortable second. So he's just coming up to the chicane. And Pickles running third is just heading towards Lavant. So again, a decent lead there for Richie. So We've got Dan, who's coming towards Lavant, Richie through Madwick's the first turn. So they're all fairly evenly spread out, those top three. Mike running in fourth, just set his fastest lap of the race, his personal fastest lap of the race last lap at a 1:07.8. Matt running there in fifth. So Matt's fastest lap of the race there is a 1:07.057. So just a tenth off the overall fastest lap of the race. So Cesar's got the fastest lap, Dan second fastest lap, and Matt, and they're all within a tenth of a second of each other. Pickles is into the pits there from third. It'll be just probably to switch on to soft tyre. Let's go and have a look. Dan's in the pits as well. We'll switch from soft to hard with 9 minutes to go. There you go. Away goes Pickles, and he is out on a set of soft. Dan there going from soft. And Dan's gone on to a set of hard. So for the last 9 minutes, Richie's in the pit, so Richie will be going on to a set of softs. So we've got either end of the tyre spectrum being used here. We've got Dan in first on hard, and Richie will be coming out still in second place, but on a set of soft tyres. So Richie's got 8.5 minutes to close down this lead to Dan. So yeah, Richie out there on a set of soft. Mike has now just taken the fastest lap of the race, a 1:06.8. So here comes Richie towards Lavant, and Pickles is just going over the start finish line now. So a third of a lap lead there, at least, for Richie over Pickles. And then we've got Mike just going over start finish, and Matt just coming through the chicane now. So Dan there just running ahead of Mike. So the top three only now on the first lap, on the lead lap. But Dan is on the hard tyre and Mike is on the soft. So I would expect Mike to get past Dan. Dan might move aside and just let him go because he's got a decent lead. But then Dan is the leader, so he has every right to be where he is. So we've got a little group of cars here going around together, all a lap apart. we've got Mike there in fourth. Just behind Mike, it looks like we've got Cez in the Hurricane, who's running in seventh. And just in front of Dan, we've got Michael as well. So we've got a little group of 4 cars there, although Cez looks like he's just dropped back just a little bit. So Mikey's on the soft tyre, so he's probably going to have to make another stop for tyres, because I can't see those tyres getting through 5 minutes. And in fact, there we go, Mike into the pits now. So that will probably put Matt's probably close enough to take, although Matt's out on a set of softs, half a tank of fuel. So Mike has just come out just in front of Matt. So these two potentially have got a little bit of a battle on up to the end of the race. As I said earlier, with these GR3 cars, we are using full tuning, 600 horsepower, 760 pp, and a minimum weight of 1,300 kilos. So everybody's running to the same, potentially the same horsepower, pp, and weight. Matt there's just set his fastest lap of the race, a 1:06.922, just less than a tenth off of the overall fastest lap of the race. So Michael there running in 6th. So we've got the 3 Audis running 4th, 5th and 6th. Says there in 7th. Richie's just come into the pits on his soft tyres. So the other thing that we do within GERC is that you get a point for pole position, which in this case will obviously have gone to Richie because he was on pole, and we also award a point for the fastest lap of the race. So if you've got a decent gap in front and behind and you haven't really got much chance of improving your position, then there is the window of opportunity to make a stop towards the end of the race where you've got low fuel and put a set of soft tyres on, and then potentially go for fastest lap of the race, which is what Richie has just done. So we will see what happens. We will keep our eye on that. So Dan in the meantime is coming up to full water, and so Dan's got a good 2/3 of a lap lead here. So Dan could do the same and go for fastest lap. In fact, talking of fastest lap, Cez has just taken that lap at a 1:06.637. So you can see there on the right hand side Richie's last lap times. Richie's fastest lap of the race so far is a 1:07.1. So he needs to find half a second or 0.5 of a second of a lap to take that fastest lap away from Cesar. In fact, he's on course for it. We'll stay with Richie on this lap and sees 0.039 of a second inside, says his fastest lap of the race. Stay with Richie and see what he manages to do. Second split time is coming up down here, down the 11th straight, just by these yellow markers. What's he doing? He's inside, so he's 0.087 inside. So he's on for a course for a 106.5. Neatly through the chicane. Will he take the fastest lap of the race? Yes, he does, by 0.176 of a second. So he's lowered that now to a 106.451. So 52 laps, and we've got there's the hour up. So this is now the final lap of the race. So we'll go back and find Dan, looks like so Pickles there has finished in third. Dan looks like he's going to come across the line and take the win, which he duly does. So congratulations, Dan. Richie is on his way to second, as Dan and Pickles have both finished. Mike there in fourth. Matt right behind him in fifth. So Cez is going to be, what's going on here? Oh, Cez has just slowed down. And okay, so Mike sixth, and there's Richie crossing the line for second and pole position and the fastest lap. So congratulations to Dan, Richie and Pickles on your top three in this race, and we will see how Lobby 2 gets on fairly soon. Cheers for now. Bye bye.